the maker of heaven and
Page 559. In my darkness, be a light to me. In my loneliness, help me to find a soul akin to my own. Give me strength to live with courage, and give me courage to draw blessing from life, even in the midst of suffering, to hold fast against the storm, and to smile at a loved one's glance. Our custom in our Yom Kippur Yizkor service is to take a few minutes to hear from a member of our congregation who has suffered a loss in the past year, to share with us a little bit of what they've gone through and how it has affected them, and in that way to kind of represent all of us. And today I've asked Jeff Young to speak. So here he comes.
Last year, on this very day, my wife, Jan, and I were attending Yom Kippur services, oblivious to the fact that we were being written into the book of life differently. I was to live, and she was to die. We had no sense that last year's service would be our last together. Jana passed away on Shabbat, in the very early morning hours of April 13th in our bedroom. It has been 6 months to this very day. She had been diagnosed with non-smoker's lung cancer 3 years earlier. When I heard that her life expectancy was 4 to 5 years, I was thrown into a state of shock and disbelief. An oncologist friend of mine told me that this was an improvement provided by new drugs that targeted the cancerous cells with great specificity, and that just over 10 years earlier, the prognosis would have been just 6 months. I found no solace in that news. Jan and I had met as seniors in high school. We had known each other for 52 years and were married for the last 40. Long ago, our hearts beat as one. This was horrific news. How does a vibrant, active, beautiful 69-year-old woman become so compromised? A yoga teacher, a walker. We follow a Mediterranean diet. This was all so perplexing, so hard to comprehend, and seemingly unfair. The drugs kept Jan alive until they didn't. On March 27, I took her to Cottage ER. Scans revealed the cancer had exploded. When Jan was first diagnosed, our hope was that she would live to see Leo's bar mitzvah in 6 years. Now we were faced with whether she could survive 5 weeks to be present for our daughter Alyssa's wedding. None of this seemed real. Alyssa spoke to me, "Dad, how can I go through with my wedding without Mom and pretend to be happy and enjoy myself?" I felt her pain and my own. What a dilemma. We had non-refundable deposits. and we had out-of-town guests with non-refundable tickets, I realized that if we postponed the wedding, we would enter a state of limbo. When would we ever feel like having the wedding and moving forward? We wouldn't know that until that time arrived at some unknown point of time in the future. Jana was alive for these discussions, and she weighed in. What do you think she said, those of you that know her? As she frequently did throughout our marriage, she set the tone for the rest of us. You must go forward and have the wedding. That gave us the green light. When it became clear that Jana would not survive to participate in the wedding, we came up with a novel idea. We spoke with Rabbi Cohen about having a mini wedding service in our home once we brought Jana back under hospice care. Without hesitation, Rabbi Cohen said yes, and he made it happen. We brought Jana home in the late afternoon of April 12. While I was by her side at cottage and followed the ambulance transporting her back to the house, the rest of the family and friends turned our living room into a makeshift sanctuary. A chuppah was put up. Rows of chairs were aligned. Jared and Jason wheeled Jana down the makeshift aisle. I then walked Alyssa down and sat with Jana in the front row. Rabbi Cohen announced, in ancient times, the wedding process was split into two parts, the betrothal and the main ceremony, and that we were about to perform the betrothal, the step whereby the couple become fully and legally connected to one another under our ancient laws. Under those laws, a get would be required to end their betrothal. The service was short, but oh so memorable. I don't know how our rabbi maintained his composure and pulled this off. He was amazing. He didn't miss a beat. He brought deep meaning to what we were doing. I can't thank him enough. Where is he? Oh, I actually knew that as I started. But I'm telling myself he's going to be sitting right there in that chair. Okay. Jana was visibly not well and just hanging on to make this happen. Everyone could see that. The air was thick with emotion. As it turned out, Jana would pass in just 8 hours later. To have participated in and witnessed this brief ceremony is one of the most intense experiences of my life and was a beautiful start to Alyssa and Dan's marriage. Our rabbis and cantor asked me to speak to you today about my loss and my unbargained for journey with grief. Given that Jana passed so recently, I wasn't sure I could stand here and share my story without interruption. I had to think about it. I turned to a wonderful little book Randy Glick had given me called Healing After Loss by Martha Hickman. It's a compilation of short meditations, each laid out for all 365 days of the year. I found the answer to our clergy's request in the book. Let me read it to you. Quote, "Whoever survives a test, whatever it may be, must tell the story. That is his duty." Close quote. Elie Wiesel. This passage follows the quote in the book. To tell our story is a way of affirming the life of the one we have lost, the experiences we had together, the favorite family stories. To tell the story is also a way of moving our grief along and so contributes to our own healing. But it is also a gift to others to tell not only the shared story of the life that has passed, but our own story in relation to this event, how we got through it. What were our fears, our panics? What helped us? What saved the day? And if there was a moment when we felt light break through, what was that like? Eventually, our friends will come to their crises of loss. Perhaps we can ease the way for them. It's all right to cry. It's all right to rely on other people. It's all right to be confused and not know what to do. And if there are moments of light and hope, of wonderful support and faith, why, we need to tell those stories too. That's the end of the passage from the book. And for me, this is how I'm getting through it. Easing the path of grief for our friends is a kind of mitzvah. It's one of the benefits of being a member of a supportive community. To be present for one another, to help our friends move forward and embrace life's beauty when they are in need. At times, a compassionate and good ear is all that is needed. I'm so fortunate to have 3 kids and their spouses, a brother, and my sister-in-law, and 3 grandkids, with more hopefully on the way. They have all been of tremendous support for me and I for them. They are processing the grief of having lost their mother in their own ways, and I am in mine. I'm also lucky to have a wealth of family and friends that have supported me and continue to do so. They are easing this journey, and I see the light at the end of the tunnel. I want to share with you 8 of the moments when light broke through while I have been processing grief. Stay with me a few more minutes. Number 1, life is beautiful. It's worth engaging and embracing. Life was beautiful before I met Jana. It was beautiful while we were married, and it remains so today. This is the path forward for me, and I hope it can be the path forward for those of us in grief today. Number 2, for 3 weeks after returning from a trip overseas with our oldest son, Jared, just a month after Jana passed, I returned to a house that felt dark and lonely. At first, the dog didn't even recognize me upon my return. The dog tried to leave with the dog sitter, if you can believe that. Thanks, Bella. Okay. This was during the May to June gloom. Then one day I awoke and I saw the light of the sun. I looked around the house, then outside, and I saw the beauty surrounding me. At that very instant, I felt comfortable and at home once again in my house. At times I am lonely, but I am not uncomfortable. Number 3, I've noticed that I'm living in 2 worlds at the same time. The world of grief, sorrow, and loss, and the world of life being beautiful, the future and moving forward. The 2 worlds coexist. Depending on who I am with, where we are, and what we are talking about, I can move into the world of grief and back into the world of life being beautiful. I find that gratitude is a beautiful bridge between these 2 worlds. Gratitude for the beautiful woman I was married to the wonderful marriage we had, and the incredible family we produced, that, by the way, are all here in this audience. Number 4, I figured out that the very best way to keep in touch with Jana is by continuing the work we did together while she was alive. The children and grandchildren were the most important things in her life, except at times if a cute fireman or piece of dark chocolate presented itself. My wife did have her priorities. I see that by being even more involved with our children, I am entering space that was special to her and made her happy and fulfilled. I am now working towards redefining those relationships as the surviving parent and grandparent. It feels good to enter this space. It feels sacred. All of us can do the same. What brought meaning to your loved one's life? Spend time doing those things while keeping them in mind. You may find a smile come across your face as you enter those spaces. Number 5, identifying with others' losses. Death is part of life. They are the bookends to our physical existence. Our culture pays too little attention to death and its significance. In the past, when I learned of someone's loss, I offered the customary condolences. Now, when I learn of someone's loss, I can feel pain, and I relate to what they are going through because I now walk in those shoes. This has opened up a new door in my life's experience that I hadn't anticipated would arrive at the age of 70. I guess you can say it's a silver lining that comes with loss. Let me add this about offering condolences to those that have suffered such loss. Most of the time, words are not only insufficient, but unnecessary. A hug and I'm so sorry you are going through this, I'm here for you, is all that is needed. I'm sure most of us who have suffered the loss of a loved one can relate to the losses of others. Allowing ourselves to do so brings us closer. This is a good thing. Number 6, love transcends all relationships and comes in various degrees. It's the universal force that binds mankind. Having lost the love of my life does not mean I have lost the ability to love. It remains. And given my experience with this type of loss for the first time, I still have my parents alive at 93 and 91. And my dad's birthday is today, October 12th. Tomorrow we celebrate his birthday. I had to remind him today was Yom Kippur, Dad. We can't do it today. Figure that out, okay. I feel that my ability to love and appreciate relationships has grown. I hope that the rest of us can also have this awareness. Give it some thought. Number 7, I no longer fear my own death. Jana spent her last few hours in a hospice bed in our bedroom. We held her hand and spoke words of love and support to her as she took her last few breaths. We watched her pass on to the other side. As sad as it was, there was also a kind of beauty in witnessing this transition without trauma, without chaos. Jana has opened the door for the rest of us. Alyssa has shared the same sentiments with me. Is this another silver lining? Number 8, the last one. Move towards fear in life. To be fearful of fear robs us of an opportunity to grow emotionally and spiritually. That's why I'm here before you. Doing this forces me to spend time in the world of grief. The only way to ever overcome one's fears is to embrace them. So let's turn to this opportunity we have together. This most solemn service, Yizkor, allows us as a community to collectively think about those that have departed this world, to honor their memories with thoughts, prayer, and good deeds. I appreciate the honor to be here with you. honoring my wife's memory as you honor the lives of those that were part of your lives. My grief is lessened by doing so. Now let's turn to Yom Kippur and why we are here. I don't know if Jana was written in the book of life or whether there even is a book of life. Maybe it's just a metaphor used to encourage us to self-reflect. Jana led a life full of tzedakah, generosity and goodwill, tefillah, serious prayer, and teshuvah, the penitent turning away from wrongdoing, along with earnest efforts to make good on one's mistakes. Whether or not there is a book, our Jewish beliefs bring us the important and serious task of reflection upon our conduct and behavior, and continually strive to improve our relations with God and each other. We can be more considerate and mindful. We can be better listeners. We can extend ourselves to say something encouraging or supportive. We can do better at following the golden rule. As this new year unfolds, take a few moments to think about what I just said. Like the stone thrown into a pond, casting concentric waves in all directions, the ripple effect can be far-reaching. May it be so. Shana Tova and Gemar Chatima Tova.